Welcome back to our channel Rare Coins Hub. In today's video, we're going to explore something really interesting and exciting. So, if you want to find out what you'll learn by staying with us till the end, make sure to watch the whole video. Stay with us and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. In 1964, the United States was in the midst of a transformative period, politically, economically, and socially. The nation was still reeling from the recent assassination of President John F. Kennedy, whose tragic death in November 1963 had cast a long shadow over the country. The turbulent 1960s were about to unfold, with the civil rights movement gaining momentum and the country grappling with growing tensions over the Vietnam War. It was a time of change, uncertainty, and hope, all rolled into one. In the midst of this momentous era, something as small as a coin was being minted, one that would eventually find its place in American history, becoming a highly sought-after piece of numismatic treasure. That coin was the 1964 1-cent piece, often referred to simply as the 1964 penny. At first glance, it might appear to be just another ordinary penny, a coin with a value that hasn't changed much over the years. But to numismatists and collectors, the 1964 penny is far from ordinary. Its design, historical significance, and the rarity of certain variants have made it a coin worth far more than just 1 cent. So, let's dive into the history, design, minting details, and collector appeal of the 1964 1-cent coin, and uncover the story of its remarkable value. The year 1964 marked a significant moment in U.S. coinage history. It was a year of transition, as the United States was entering an era of great change, both politically and economically. The country had just lost a beloved leader in President Kennedy, and the loss of Kennedy had a profound impact on the nation. The year also marked the end of a particular era in U.S. coinage, as it was the last year that U.S. dimes, quarters, and half dollars were minted in 90% silver before being changed to a copper-nickel alloy due to the rising cost of silver. The 1964 penny, however, remained true to its copper composition, struck from a mixture of 95% copper and 5% zinc, just as the pennies of the 20th century had been. This is where the 1964 penny begins to stand out in terms of its collector appeal. While the penny itself may seem relatively insignificant compared to other coins with higher face values, the historical context in which it was minted adds a layer of importance that collectors now seek. In the wake of Kennedy's assassination, many people turned to coins as a way to honor his memory, and the 1964 penny, which had just been minted that same year, became one of the earliest coins to carry the somber and hopeful spirit of the 1960s. For many collectors, owning a 1964 penny evokes the era in which it was made and serves as a small but tangible link to the past. The design of the 1964 penny was not drastically different from the coins that came before it, yet it carries with it a timeless appeal. The obverse of the coin, designed by Victor David Brenner, features the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln had been featured on the penny since 1909, the first U.S. coin to honor a president. The design shows Lincoln in a side profile, with the words, "In God We Trust," above his head, the word "Liberty" to the right, and the year of minting, 1964, at the bottom. The image of Lincoln on the penny has become one of the most recognizable symbols of U.S. coinage. On the reverse of the 1964 penny, the design showcases 2 wheat stalks, symbolizing the nation's agricultural strength. The wheat design had been used on the reverse of the penny since 1909 and remained in place until 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. However, the 1964 penny was one of the last to feature the wheat ears before the transition to the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. This makes the 1964 penny particularly significant to collectors, as it is one of the last coins of its kind to feature the iconic wheat stalks. The minting of the 1964 penny, like many other coins produced during this era, was done in large quantities at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. By the time the year had ended, billions of pennies had been struck, and the coins were rapidly distributed across the country, finding their way into the pockets of American citizens. The 1964 penny was a workhorse of the economy, circulating alongside dimes, nickels, and quarters, performing the mundane task of representing a very small denomination of money. However, much like other coins minted in the United States during this time, the 1964 penny would eventually take on new significance as a collectible item. While most 1964 pennies are worth their face value, there are certain variations and rare errors that make some of these coins highly valuable to collectors. Over the years, collectors have become particularly interested in certain types of 1964 pennies that exhibit unique characteristics or flaws. One of the most important variations is the existence of the 1964 D. Denver Mint and 1964 Philadelphia Mint coins. These two varieties are similar, but their mint marks differentiate them. The 1964 D penny was minted in Denver, while the 1964 penny without a mint mark was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. The coins differ slightly in their characteristics, and collectors often seek out the rarer varieties, especially those in mint condition. Another significant aspect that can affect the value of the 1964 penny is the coin's condition. Coins that have been well preserved, free from scratches or wear, are always in high demand. In the world of coin collecting, the term grade is used to describe the condition of a coin, and coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, uncirculated coin. Pennies that have been carefully preserved and remain in high-grade condition can fetch much higher prices than those that have been circulated extensively. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that retain their original details and have minimal wear from circulation. However, the most coveted and valuable 1964 pennies are those that possess rare minting errors. Minting errors are the result of mistakes made during the production of the coins, and these errors can range from slight imperfections to more dramatic flaws that result in misstruck coins. One of the most famous and valuable errors in the world of coin collecting is the double die error. A double die occurs when the coin die, used to strike the design onto the coin, misaligns during the minting process, causing certain parts of the design to be imprinted more than once. The result is a doubled or blurred effect on parts of the coin's design. In the case of the 1964 penny, the most sought-after double die errors occur in the date or in the words, "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." In addition to double die errors, another type of error that can make a 1964 penny particularly valuable is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be struck off the coin's surface. Off-center strike pennies are often irregularly shaped and can command significant premiums in the numismatic market. Now, let's talk about the stunning reveal: what makes the 1964 penny so extraordinary in terms of value. The vast majority of 1964 pennies, even those in excellent condition, are worth only their face value of 1 cent. However, if you happen to stumble upon a rare variety, an error coin, or an exceptionally high-grade example, your 1964 penny could be worth far more than you'd expect. One of the most remarkable sales in the history of the 1964 penny occurred when a specimen, featuring a rare error and in pristine condition, sold at auction for an incredible $143,000. Yes, you read that correctly, a single 1964 penny, which originally had a face value of just 1 cent, sold for a staggering $143,000. The coin in question was a double die error with a near-perfect grade, and it had been carefully preserved for decades. When it went up for auction, it attracted the attention of collectors from all over the world, and bidding quickly escalated, eventually reaching a jaw-dropping price. This particular coin's remarkable value was due to a combination of factors: the rarity of the minting error, the pristine condition of the coin, and the high demand from collectors seeking out rare and valuable examples of U.S. coinage. The $143,000 price tag for a 1964 penny may seem unbelievable, but it serves as a powerful reminder that in the world of coin collecting, even the most seemingly ordinary coins can carry extraordinary value. So, what does this mean for you? If you happen to come across a 1964 penny in your pocket change or in a coin jar, take a moment to inspect it closely. While it's unlikely that you'll find a coin worth $143,000, there's always the possibility that you might find one with a rare error or in exceptional condition. Coins from 1964 are still circulating today, and the thrill of finding a rare treasure is one that many collectors dream of. In the world of numismatics, it's not just about the coins themselves, it's about the stories they tell. The 1964 penny, with its historical significance, its design, and its collectible appeal, is a testament to the way in which even the smallest pieces of currency can hold tremendous value and meaning. For collectors, the 1964 penny is more than just a coin, it's a window into a pivotal moment in American history, and for those lucky enough to find a rare example, it could also be a ticket to a life-changing windfall. In 1968, the United States was a nation at a crossroads. It was a year marked by upheaval, change, and tremendous cultural and political shifts. The civil rights movement was in full swing, the Vietnam War was escalating, and tensions were high both at home and abroad. The year also saw the loss of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose assassination in April further fueled protests and calls for justice. It was a year when the world watched as the Apollo 8 mission successfully orbited the Moon, marking humanity's first major leap toward space exploration. Amidst this climate of dramatic change, one very small but significant object was making its way through the hands of Americans, a simple coin, the 1968 1-cent piece. While it might seem to be just another ordinary penny, the 1968 penny would go on to play an intriguing role in the world of coin collecting. This small and unassuming coin, minted in the midst of so much global and national turmoil, holds both historical and numismatic importance, making it an object of fascination for coin collectors to this day. The story of the 1968 penny begins with the social and political landscape of the 1960s. The United States had just undergone a period of tremendous change, with the country reeling from the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963. This loss left an indelible mark on the national consciousness and, in many ways, ushered in an era of intense social change. The civil rights movement gained momentum, and the Vietnam War became a point of national contention, dividing public opinion. Yet, as the world dealt with political turmoil and social unrest, life continued in many ways as usual. People still went to work, raised their families, and carried on their daily routines, often without much thought to the small pieces of currency they used to conduct business. The 1968 penny, like the dimes, quarters, and half-dollars that were minted during this period, was struck at the United States Mint as part of the ongoing coinage program that had been established decades earlier. But unlike some other coins from the same period, the 1968 penny holds particular significance because of its unique position within U.S. coinage history. By the 1960s, the design of the penny had not changed for nearly 60 years. The obverse featured the well-known profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, who had been depicted on the penny since 1909. The reverse featured two stalks of wheat, symbolizing the nation's agricultural roots, a design that had been in place since the early 1900s. However, 1968 marked the final year that the wheat design would be used, as the U.S. Mint was preparing to replace it with the new Lincoln Memorial design that would appear on the reverse of the penny beginning in 1959. At this point, the country was in the midst of a national debate about the rising costs of minting coins, especially with the increasing price of silver and copper. In the years leading up to 1965, the U.S. Mint had been dealing with the escalating cost of precious metals, which led to the decision to eliminate silver from dimes, quarters, and half-dollars in favor of a more economical copper-nickel alloy. While the composition of the penny remained unchanged in 1968, the year was still significant for another reason. The U.S. Mint was beginning to deal with the issues surrounding coin composition, and changes would come in the years to follow. So, what about the design of the 1968 penny itself? On the obverse of the coin, we see the familiar profile of President Lincoln, a design created by sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909. Brenner's design of Lincoln on the penny was groundbreaking in its time, as it was the first coin in U.S. history to feature a portrait of a sitting president. The image of Lincoln has remained on the penny ever since, making it one of the most recognizable and enduring designs in American coinage. Above Lincoln's portrait on the 1968 penny, we see the words, "In God We Trust," a national motto that has appeared on U.S. coins since the 19th century. To the right of Lincoln's head is the word "Liberty," while the date, 1968, is located just below his profile. While these design elements remained consistent for decades, there is one important aspect of the 1968 penny that sets it apart from earlier years: the mint mark. The mint mark is a small letter on the coin that indicates where it was minted. In 1968, pennies were minted at 3 different U.S. mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The mint mark D indicates that the penny was struck at the Denver Mint, while the absence of a mint mark indicates that the penny was struck in Philadelphia. San Francisco produced proof coins, which were specifically made for collectors. Mint marks, particularly on coins from this era, can play a significant role in the coin's value. On the reverse of the 1968 penny, we find the last of the wheat stock designs. This reverse, designed by engraver Frank Gasparo, features 2 stalks of wheat framing the words "United States of America" and "E Pluribus Unum." Beneath this is the phrase, "1 cent," and at the very bottom of the coin, the inscription, F. Gasparo's design for the wheat reverse has long been celebrated for its simplicity and symbolism, representing the agricultural backbone of the United States. As with many coins produced by the U.S. Mint, the 1968 penny was minted in massive quantities, with billions of these coins being struck that year. Most of these pennies entered into circulation and were quickly spent by Americans, disappearing into the daily economic cycle. In fact, the vast majority of 1968 pennies are still available today, albeit in varying degrees of condition. However, what really sets the 1968 penny apart from others is its potential to be a rare and valuable coin due to certain minting errors and other factors. Over the years, collectors have developed a deep interest in coins with rare features, and the 1968 penny has not escaped their attention. Some of the most valuable 1968 pennies are those that contain unique errors, misprints, or other defects that make them stand out from the mass-produced coins. One of the most sought-after variations of the 1968 penny is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts during the minting process, resulting in a doubling effect in the design, most notably in the year and the word "Liberty." For coin collectors, a double die error is a highly coveted find, and it can drastically increase the value of a penny. The 1968 penny is particularly interesting to collectors because of this possibility of minting errors. Even though the double die error is relatively rare, it has made the 1968 penny a valuable item for those who are lucky enough to find one. Additionally, other types of errors, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, and misaligned designs, can also make a 1968 penny more valuable. These errors occur when the coin is improperly struck or damaged during the minting process, and they result in coins with unusual or unique characteristics. Collectors are always on the lookout for these coins, as they often fetch significant premiums at auction. As for the current value of the 1968 penny, it might surprise you just how much these seemingly ordinary coins can fetch. While most 1968 pennies are worth only their face value of 1 cent, some of the rare and valuable examples can command staggering prices in the numismatic market. The most extraordinary of these coins, those with significant minting errors, in exceptional condition, and with rare characteristics, can fetch prices that far exceed their face value. In fact, one such 1968 penny, with a particularly rare minting error and a high grade, recently sold for an astonishing $135,000 at auction. This particular penny, which featured a notable double die error in the date, became a sensation when it was sold to a private collector who was willing to pay top dollar for such a unique and rare find. While it's certainly an outlier, this sale serves as a testament to the value that collectors place on certain coins. For many coin enthusiasts, the thrill of finding a rare penny like the 1968 version is one of the most exciting aspects of numismatics. Of course, it's important to note that most 1968 pennies will not fetch such high prices. The vast majority of them, even in excellent condition, are worth only a few cents. However, for the dedicated collector, the 1968 penny represents an exciting opportunity to search for rare errors, mint marks, and other valuable features. If you happen to come across a 1968 penny in your spare change, take a moment to examine it closely. You never know if you've just found a hidden gem that could be worth far more than 1 cent. In conclusion, the 1968 penny is much more than just a coin. It's a piece of history, a symbol of a time of great change and cultural upheaval in the United States. It also represents an intriguing world of collectors and enthusiasts who spend years searching for rare and valuable coins. Whether you're drawn to its design, its historical significance, or the thrill of discovering an error coin, the 1968 penny holds a special place in the world of American coinage. And for those lucky enough to find a rare example, the potential for an incredible windfall makes this seemingly ordinary penny anything but average. In 1970, America was navigating through a turbulent yet transformative period in its history. The country had already been through so much over the past few decades. The tumultuous 1960s, which saw everything from the Civil Rights Movement to the Vietnam War, had left an indelible mark on American society. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 had cast a shadow over the nation, and the loss of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968 had left many wondering what the future held. Yet, in 1970, America was beginning to shift from the emotional weight of the 1960s into the early days of the 1970s, which would be marked by political reforms, societal change, and technological advancements. One such advancement in the 1970s was space exploration, as the Apollo missions reached new heights. The 1970s were also a decade of economic shifts, as inflation and rising costs would lead to the introduction of a new, redesigned currency, including changes to coinage. But during this time, despite the fast-paced changes in the country's politics and economics, one small, simple object remained a constant in the pockets of everyday Americans: the penny. The 1971 cent coin was about to become an important part of this historical period, in ways that many would never have anticipated when the coin was first minted. For many, the 1970 penny was just another coin, a small piece of currency used for daily transactions. But for collectors and numismatists, it holds a special place in history and is now recognized as an extraordinary coin worth far more than its face value. As we look back at the 1970 penny, it's important to understand the historical and political backdrop in which it was created. The 1960s had been a decade of revolution and change, but by 1970, the United States was facing new challenges. The Vietnam War was still raging, causing widespread dissent and protest, while the nation also grappled with social issues like racial inequality and the expanding power of the federal government. But on a more personal level, many Americans were feeling the effects of a changing economy. Inflation was beginning to bite, and prices on everything from groceries to gas were on the rise. In response, the U.S. Mint had already started to deal with the increasing cost of metal used in coins. The 1970 penny would be part of an important moment in U.S. coinage history, as it represented the tail end of a specific era. Pennies had been composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc since their inception in the 19th century, but by 1971, in response to the rising costs of copper, the U.S. Mint began to transition to a new copper-plated zinc composition. This change had a direct impact on the penny, but 1970 would be the last year in which pennies were still made primarily of copper. This fact alone makes the 1970 penny a historic coin in the context of American numismatic history. Many collectors seek out these pre-1971 copper pennies because they represent the last coins of their kind before the mint altered the composition of the currency. The design of the 1971 cent piece remains much the same as the previous years. On the obverse of the coin, we see the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, which has been featured on the penny since 1909. The portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, is instantly recognizable, and it shows Lincoln in a dignified side profile. This design was groundbreaking when it first appeared on the penny over 60 years earlier, as it was the first time a sitting president had been depicted on a U.S. coin. The words, "In God We Trust," appear above Lincoln's head, with the word "Liberty" to the right, and the date, 1970, located beneath Lincoln's image. In the years since the penny's introduction, Lincoln's profile has become one of the most enduring and beloved features of U.S. coinage. On the reverse side of the 1970 penny, the design is the same as the one used on the penny since 1909, wheat stalks framing the inscription, United States of America, with the phrase, E pluribus unum, above and 1 cent below. The stalks of wheat symbolize the agricultural roots of the United States and have long been associated with the penny, though this particular design would be phased out in 1958 and replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. The 1970 penny still featured the wheat design, making it a transitional coin for collectors. It was one of the last pennies to carry this classic image before it was replaced with the new design, which featured the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of the nation's strength and history. Minting of the 1970 penny took place in large quantities, with the Philadelphia Mint producing the most of them. Other mints, like those in Denver and San Francisco, also produced coins, though the 1970 penny saw significant amounts of production at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins were struck in huge numbers to meet the demands of everyday commerce, with billions of pennies entering circulation across the United States. At the time, the penny served as a fundamental part of the American economy, helping to facilitate small transactions and offering a way for people to make purchases for the most basic of goods. And yet, while these pennies were being used as part of routine daily life, their value as collectibles was yet to be fully realized. Despite its widespread circulation, the 1970 penny, like many other coins, has a unique value in the world of numismatics. Coins from this era, especially those with certain characteristics, have become highly desirable to collectors. One of the most important factors that determines the value of any coin is its rarity. In the case of the 1970 penny, the most significant rarity stems from the presence of special errors that occurred during the minting process. These error coins are sought after by collectors because they are considered unusual or unique in some way, and their rarity can drive up the price significantly. The 1970 penny is most famous for the presence of the double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned during the production process, causing the design to be imprinted twice, resulting in a doubled image. In the case of the 1970 penny, the doubling is often most noticeable on the date and on the word "Liberty." This doubling effect is a subtle but noticeable flaw, and it can make the coin much more valuable. The more pronounced the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes to collectors. Another factor that adds value to the 1970 penny is its condition. As with all coins, the better the condition, the more valuable the coin will be. Coins that have been well preserved over the years, with minimal signs of wear and no scratches or damage, are more likely to fetch higher prices. Collectors value coins that are in pristine condition, and the 1970 penny is no exception. A coin that is graded as mint state, a perfect, uncirculated coin, is much more desirable than one that has been heavily circulated. While most 1970 pennies are worth only their face value of 1 cent, there have been occasions where specific rare examples have sold for much more. In fact, certain 1970 pennies with rare errors and high grades have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars, with one of the most exceptional examples reaching an astonishing $120,000 at auction. The coin that garnered this incredible price was a 1970 penny with a prominent double die error, combined with a high grade that was nearly perfect. This remarkable sale captured the attention of the numismatic community and solidified the 1970 penny's status as one of the most valuable coins of its time. So, what does this mean for you? If you happen to come across a 1970 penny in your collection or in your spare change, take a closer look. While the vast majority of these coins will not be worth thousands of dollars, there is always the possibility that you might find a rare error or one in excellent condition that could be worth far more than you think. For those with an eye for detail, the thrill of finding a valuable coin can be one of the most exciting aspects of collecting. And even if you don't find a rare 1970 penny, the story behind the coin, its role in U.S. history and its eventual rise in value, is a fascinating part of numismatic lore. In the world of coin collecting, it's not just about the face value of the coin, it's about the history, the rarity, and the unique qualities that make a coin special. The 1970 penny, with its connection to a pivotal era in American history, its design, and the potential for rare coins, has captured the attention of collectors for years. And for those who find a rare, well-preserved example, the potential for an incredible windfall is certainly there. So, the next time you look at a 1970 penny, remember, it's more than just a piece of copper. It's a small but significant part of American history, one that has captured the hearts and imaginations of coin collectors around the world. And who knows? You just might find the hidden gem that could be worth far more than 1 cent. In 1972, America was a country at a crossroads, poised between the upheaval of the 1960s and the uncertain days that lay ahead. The Vietnam War was continuing to spark protests and political debates across the nation, while the cultural landscape was rapidly changing. Women's rights, civil rights, and the emerging environmental movement all became central to public discourse during this time. The early 1970s were also marked by the lingering effects of the 1960s counterculture, with the world now looking toward an uncertain future. In the midst of all this societal change, the United States Mint continued its regular operations, producing coins that would carry the nation through these turbulent times. The 1972 1-cent coin was one of these pieces of currency, a small but essential part of the everyday economy. While this coin may have been used in routine purchases by millions of Americans in 1972, what many didn't realize at the time was that it would become one of the most fascinating and sought-after coins in numismatic history. In fact, the 1972 penny, with its distinctive characteristics, plays a pivotal role in coin collecting today, thanks to its unique place in American history, its design, and some fascinating minting errors that make it a rare find for collectors. As we turn back the clock to 1972, we find the United States in the midst of significant change. The country was still grappling with the consequences of the Vietnam War, and the Watergate scandal, which would come to define much of the political climate of the 1970s, was just beginning to unravel. In 1972, Richard Nixon was in his second year of his presidency, and the country was already feeling the effects of inflation and economic instability. The United States was also undergoing a transition in terms of coinage, as the price of metals continued to rise, which led to changes in the composition of U.S. coins. In 1965, the U.S. Mint had already begun to move away from using precious metals like silver in its coins. By the time the 1972 penny was struck, the composition of the coin was already transitioning from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a more cost-effective composition, which would eventually result in the penny's shift to a copper-plated zinc core in 1982. However, 1972 was still a year in which the penny maintained its copper composition, which added a layer of historical significance to the coin. But before we get into the specifics of the 1972 penny's design, let's consider the context of U.S. coinage at that time. The 1972 penny was not a unique creation in the sense that it was part of a larger pattern in American coinage that had been in place for decades. The United States had been minting pennies for centuries, and the design of the 1-cent coin had gone through several iterations since its creation in the 18th century. However, by the early 1970s, the penny had become a staple of everyday American life. The design of the 1972 penny was not drastically different from earlier issues, but there were still subtle changes and features that would make it stand out among its peers. The obverse of the 1972 penny featured the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, which had been on the penny since 1909. The design of the coin, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, was revolutionary at the time, as it was the first time a sitting president had been depicted on U.S. coinage. Lincoln's image, shown in a side profile, became one of the most iconic depictions of any U.S. president and has remained on the penny ever since. Above Lincoln's profile, the words, "In God We Trust," were prominently displayed, reminding the American public of the nation's religious roots. To the right of Lincoln's profile was the word "Liberty," and beneath the president's profile was the year, 1972. The reverse of the 1972 penny, much like the obverse, was rooted in tradition. It featured two stalks of wheat, a design that had been a part of the penny since 1909. The wheat stalks, which symbolized the agricultural heritage of the United States, were flanked by the words "United States of America" and the motto "E pluribus unum." Below the wheat stalks, the words "1 cent" appeared prominently, emphasizing the coin's value. This design would be replaced later that same decade, in 1959, with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the penny's history. But in 1972, the wheat design was still very much alive, giving the 1972 penny a historical significance that many collectors would later come to appreciate. The 1972 penny is unique for another reason: its place in the story of minting errors. Collectors and numismatists know that the minting process is far from perfect, and sometimes mistakes happen. While most coins are produced without issue, there are instances in which errors occur, making a coin valuable for collectors. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1972 penny is the presence of what is known as the double die error, which would make this coin a highly sought-after item for coin collectors. The double die error occurs when the coin's design is struck multiple times during the minting process, causing the image on the coin to appear doubled or blurred. In the case of the 1972 penny, this error is most noticeable on the date and the word "Liberty." The doubling effect can be subtle, but it is still noticeable to the trained eye. This error is particularly valuable to collectors because it represents a rare anomaly in the minting process, and it can turn a simple 1972 penny into a prized collectible. While only a small percentage of the 1972 pennies were struck with the double die error, those that were have become some of the most valuable pennies in the numismatic world. Additionally, there are other varieties of the 1972 penny that collectors seek out, such as those with off-center strikes, die cracks, or other minting errors. These variations make the 1972 penny even more appealing to collectors who are looking for rare and unique examples of U.S. coinage. Because the U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies in 1972, the coin is not particularly rare by itself. However, when combined with these minting errors, it becomes a coin of great interest to numismatists and investors alike. So, how does all of this affect the value of the 1972 penny? Most 1972 pennies, in regular circulated condition, are worth only their face value, 1 cent. However, certain coins, particularly those with the double die error, can command much higher prices. Coins that are well preserved and in excellent condition can also increase in value, as collectors are always on the lookout for high-grade examples of historical coins. A 1972 penny with the double die error, especially one that has been graded highly by professional grading services, can sell for thousands of dollars. In some cases, a high-quality 1972 penny with a pronounced double die error can fetch an astounding $112,000 or more at auction. This impressive price tag reflects the rarity and desirability of these particular error coins. When a collector or investor stumbles upon a 1972 penny with a notable error, they are sitting on a potentially valuable asset that can continue to appreciate in value over time. The world of coin collecting is often filled with surprises, and the 1972 penny is a prime example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can turn into an extraordinary treasure. In conclusion, the 1972 penny is much more than just a piece of copper. It's a snapshot of a pivotal moment in American history, a coin that reflects the nation's political and economic landscape during a time of great change. It also serves as a reminder that, sometimes, the most ordinary objects can become valuable treasures. The 1972 penny, with its historical significance, design, and potential for rare minting errors, holds a special place in the world of coin collecting. For collectors who are fortunate enough to find a 1972 penny with an error or in pristine condition, the reward can be far greater than just a cent. It can be a windfall that could change their lives forever. So, next time you check your pocket change, remember that the 1972 penny could be far more than just a reminder of America's past. It could be the key to an incredible investment. In the early 1970s, America was at a crossroads. The social and political upheaval of the previous decade had left the country reeling, with civil rights movements, anti-war protests, and a fractured sense of national identity. As the country entered the 1970s, many were trying to move forward from the turmoil of the 1960s, focusing on economic recovery, political stability, and technological advancements. Amidst these changes, there was one constant that every American would hold in their hand: the penny. It was a staple in the pockets of millions, a simple, everyday object that became a symbol of the times. The 1972 U.S. 1-cent coin, while seemingly insignificant, would go on to have a fascinating story behind it, one that resonates with collectors and numismatists to this day. At first glance, the 1972 penny might appear as nothing more than a regular coin, something you'd toss into your pocket or change jar without giving it a second thought. However, the penny, like all coins, carries a weight far beyond its size. As a piece of currency, it represents the nation's economy. But, for the dedicated numismatist, the 1972 penny holds more than just monetary value. It is a snapshot of a particular moment in American history. And, like many coins in U.S. history, it has a story to tell. In the broader context of American coinage, the penny holds a unique place. The 1-cent coin is the oldest circulating coin in the U.S. and has undergone many transformations since its creation in 1793. But by the time we reach 1972, the penny had settled into a long-running design that would eventually be regarded as iconic. And yet, the story of the 1972 penny isn't just about design or composition. It's about its role in an era of change, the mistakes that were made in its production, and the incredible value these seemingly insignificant coins hold in the numismatic world today. The 1972 penny was minted at a time when the United States Mint was facing growing challenges in the production of currency. The late 1960s had seen significant changes in coinage due to the rising costs of precious metals. By 1965, the United States Mint had begun shifting away from using silver in the production of its coins, and by 1972, the 1-cent coin was still made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, just as it had been since its introduction. But what made the 1972 penny stand out from its predecessors was its unique place within this broader trend of change. In 1972, the U.S. Mint continued to operate under the leadership of the Treasury Department, which had seen several changes in administration and policies since the end of World War II. The U.S. was still recovering from the economic strain of the war, and inflation was beginning to take its toll. The price of copper was beginning to climb, and soon the mint would face the dilemma of finding a more affordable way to produce its coins. However, 1972 would be the last year the 1-cent coin would maintain its full copper composition, and it would continue to circulate in everyday life for many years to come. On the obverse side of the 1972 penny, the most striking feature is the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This iconic image, which has been on the penny since 1909, was designed by artist Victor David Brenner. It's a powerful representation of Lincoln, a leader revered for his role in guiding the nation through its darkest days during the Civil War. Lincoln's image, side-profiled and framed by the words, "In God We Trust," above and "Liberty," to the right, immediately became one of the most enduring and recognizable symbols of American coinage. The year, 1972, is also visible at the base of Lincoln's bust, marking the year of minting. This date represents an era in American history that was marked by political and social change. While much of the country was still adjusting to the effects of the Vietnam War and the civil rights movements, the penny remained steadfast in its design, offering a sense of continuity during a period of upheaval. The obverse side of the penny, with its familiar image of Lincoln, seemed to offer a quiet reminder of the nation's resilience. The reverse side of the 1972 penny also carries significant meaning. For the first time since 1958, the reverse design featured a subtle change. The iconic wheat stalks, which had adorned the penny since 1909, were replaced with the Lincoln Memorial. This change was intended to symbolize the nation's strength, unity, and reverence for Lincoln's legacy. The new design would go on to be featured on pennies for several decades, but in 1972, it was still a fresh departure from the wheat design that had graced the penny for so many years. The reverse side features the words United States of America at the top, the phrase E pluribus unum near the top, and 1 cent at the bottom. In the middle, the Lincoln Memorial is depicted in all its grandeur, with the statue of Lincoln seated at the center. This striking image of the memorial would become one of the most recognizable symbols on U.S. currency and serve as a fitting tribute to one of the country's most beloved presidents. Despite its humble appearance, the 1972 penny is considered a coin of great significance in the world of coin collecting. While most pennies from this time period circulated widely and were spent by the public, some rare and valuable errors were made in the production process, making certain 1972 pennies incredibly sought after by collectors. These errors, particularly the famous double die variety, have become highly coveted in the world of numismatics. The double die error occurs when a coin's die is misaligned during the minting process, causing the design to be struck multiple times. This results in a blurry, doubled image, which can be seen in various parts of the coin, including the date and the word Liberty. On the 1972 penny, this error is one of the most famous and valuable, making it a sought-after item among collectors. The more prominent and noticeable the doubling, the higher the value of the coin. Additionally, other rare 1972 pennies with errors such as die cracks or off-center strikes have also been discovered, further increasing the coin's value. These rare finds, often in near-perfect condition, can command astronomical prices in the marketplace, with some 1972 pennies fetching as much as $112,000 at auction. While these high-dollar sales are rare, they serve as a testament to the incredible value that collectors place on these historical coins. For most people, a 1972 penny might seem insignificant, a tiny piece of copper worth only a single cent. But for collectors and numismatists, it's a treasure waiting to be discovered. With its rich history, its iconic design, and the potential for rare minting errors, the 1972 penny is far more than just pocket change. It represents a piece of American history and a rare opportunity to uncover a hidden gem. If you happen to find a 1972 penny in your pocket or your coin jar, take a moment to examine it carefully. You may just have a rare, error-filled coin on your hands. And if you're lucky enough to find one in pristine condition or with a pronounced double die error, you could be holding a coin worth far more than its face value. The 1972 penny serves as a reminder that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value, and for collectors, it remains a piece of history that continues to capture the imagination and awe of those who seek it. So, next time you see a 1972 penny, don't dismiss it as just another coin. It could very well be the key to a collector's treasure chest. After all, a small, simple coin might hold far more than just the story of its minting. It could hold the promise of an extraordinary future.